Paladin is easily becoming one of my favorite classes in the last Epoch. If you've watched and saw my other videos, you know that I've been recently playing Ignite Hammered in, and lately I wanted to try something a little bit different. I did some searching and did some research to try to find ways to upgrade my character, and I came across something a little bit interesting, a little bit spicy. Very recently 1.0's dropped, and we have recently gotten the Healing Hands Paladin tree, which allowed us to turn Healing Hands into a skill. I've seen a couple videos and a couple takes on pretty much Seraph Blade Healing Hands Paladin. I've also seen some Smite variants that are also really good, and today I just want to show you the power of playing melee. As somebody who comes from a lot of these ARPG games, being able to play a melee class in this game, well, it's kind of exciting. Before I go over the gear, the skill tree, and all that stuff, I figure what we can do is I can hop into an echo, do an echo, I can show you a boss, and then I can pretty much just show you the lich or the shade and just kind of give you guys a feel for how the character plays. Now, my character is currently in COF, or Circle of Fortune. I'm rank 9. I've been using this character to push. I am really, really close to rank 10, so, you know, I still could use a lot of gear and a lot of upgrades. I'm only level 97, and this right here we saw was a 312-ish corruption. Overall, this character has felt really, really, really good to play. Really smooth. It cuts through these echoes, no problems whatsoever. The only thing that really gives this character in echoes a hard time is if the characters have dodge or the glancing blow mod. But everything else in itself has just been, you know, really, really, really good and really comfy to play. Paladin itself is relatively tanky. You see that I'm able to generate large numbers of ward. My character really doesn't have too many issues. I cut through everything on the map, and overall, it's just been, I'm shocked. Honestly, there's just no other way to say it. Like, playing this character has just been fun. It's been exciting. Unfortunately, it's not as flashy as some of the other characters that I've seen, but it really honestly just gets the job done. The only thing that really kills this character is if you were to stand in things, like if I were to stand in that big pile of poison, that might be a little bit of a problem, as the poison would kill me. We see right there a bunch of my prophecies just procced. I can't wait. I hope my axe is in there, man. I so hope my axe is in there. Playing COF is one of the coolest things right now. You're constantly on the lookout for like the item that you need. Oh my god, a 3 LP. This is what we're looking for, but it didn't drop with LP. Unfortunate. Oh, so unfortunate. Dang it. Spell damage, mana, poison. Dang, dude. Dang. I can't believe that's cool. That's not what we want. Oh, man. But overall, you see the character in itself inside of an echo does relatively well. You don't have too many issues either outside of echoes. I haven't really pushed this character much higher. I didn't want to do this echo at like 500, 600, 700. I really wanted to showcase this at, you know, roughly a 300 corruption. I feel from talking to a lot of you guys that a lot of you guys are pushing like 100, 200, and 300 corruption. And I just wanted to showcase something that pretty much lives up to that level of, you know, difficulty. Now, this boss, I'm pretty convinced that like ginormous explosion and the current state of my character at this corruption level will kill me. In lower corruptions, I can just stand there and tank it. But right now, I don't want to die. I don't want to die, and you guys are yelling at me. Overall, this character plays really smooth and really simple. You just pretty much just AFK, hold right click, and things will eventually die. The character itself, oh god, I gotta move out of this. Oh, I guess not. I guess not. Overall, the character itself is really tanky and really fast and really powerful. Every time we press Volatile reversal, that button that I seem a lot of you guys just seem to hate, you start dealing more and more and more damage, and you're able to just pretty much, you know, AFK, the world is your oyster, do whatever you want. There will be things that will kill you. You know, I would really recommend doing game mechanics. But with more gear and more investment and more time played, I'm pretty convinced this character can just do whatever it wants. I've seen other people playing very similar versions of this. Other melee characters and other melee players have been getting up to 30,000 ward. Other players have been, you know, 10,000, 15,000 ward. So there is a world where the investment into this character itself can go really, really, really well. You know, you don't have a lot of issues, you don't have a lot of problems, and you can see right doing this corruption level, like it's not bad at all. It's relatively simple. The only downside is, as well, if you're looking for high DPS numbers and you're looking for things to just immediately fall over and drop dead, you're gonna have to put a little bit more investment into the character. Right now, like being COF and not having tons of playtime and exploring a bunch of options in the game, I haven't had as much time as I would like to really dedicate and focus to just the hard grind. There's so many other things that like are so exciting. By things, I mean like literally like working on leveling COF and getting blessings. So I do think though that COF is really awesome, and I look forward to my gear actually dropping so that I can push my character a little bit more. All right, and that, whoa, this is why it's so good. Oh my God. Do you see? I think we're taking, no, we're poison cap. Do you just take the all resistance? I think we just hit, what do we have right now? Oh, we have crit avoidance. No, we're keeping crit avoidance. We're keeping crit avoidance. We need crit avoidance. I forgot we have crit avoidance. My God. They said prophecies weren't good. Yeah. Ooh. Anything crazy here? No. We're just kind of collect ones. Anything good? Oh, can you imagine if I get something insane here? A lot of the same ring, unfortunately. Sunwreath. Another Quicksilver. That. Another Sunwreath. Dang. I like COF, dude. If you guys are wondering, there's a video explaining COF and how all of that happened on my page, where you see only a couple of prophecies procced. But overall, that is the character. This is how it functions and plays. And even things like, you know, pushing corruption. If I were to go to a shade now and activate and sit and do a shade, it just becomes the same thing. You know, you really have nothing to really honestly worry about. Now we're gonna go after we kill this shade. Oh, we don't want to. Oh, I guess we can stand. I guess we can stand it. That. Oh, I know that'll kill me. That I know will kill me. We're not gonna stand in the giant rock dropping from the sky. Everything else though, yeah, whatever. We just press our buttons. Now we're gonna go over all the gear, all the skills, how it all works, how it all functions, what its current setup is like, and pretty much where I'm looking forward to making upgrades. And, you know, I'm trying to give you guys a direct path that if you choose to copy this or play this or come up with a variant of it, you guys maybe might have some really fun ideas. All right, now this thing's gonna die. You know, the only thing I wish I had was Smite. I wish, and I understand why people are playing the Smite version, because Smite has the Calling Strike or the Execute effect in this game. And it would just, this thing would be dead in a second, and I wouldn't stand here another 5 seconds killing it. All right, 4, 3, 2, and we win! Amulets! Anything good? No. 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 Dang it. Nothing that I want. All right, let's talk about the character. As you see, we are a Healing Hands Paladin. We generate tons and tons of ward. We have great survivability. We have great sustaining power. And we have pretty good damage. Originally, when I tried to put this together, I wanted to play it as Healing Hands itself. Healing Hands itself can be a melee skill. The problem is that through testing, Healing Hands is not scaling with attack speed. It is scaling with cast speed for some reason, and no matter how much cast speed I put on, the ability to attack and have it feel good was just never a thing. Like, no matter how much cast speed I put on and I tried to do this, it just never felt good. So we needed another alternative way to cast Healing Hands as a melee skill. I started doing some research and looking around on YouTube, and I saw another content creator named Perry the Pig using Rive. I saw another guy who was using a two-handed axe and also using Rive. So, you know, I saw a pretty much a running theme of a bunch of content creators using Reeve. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it horribly. And, you know, I decided that I'm going to do what they did and give it a fair shot. And, you know, these guys who were doing it before me really hit it on the head. We are essentially using Rive to proc our Healing Hands. And Healing Hands has a node that says every time that you attack, or whenever you use a direct melee attack and hit at least one enemy, you have a chance to cast Healing Hands around the target. You know, this consumes mana based on Healing Hands' mana cost, and currently, you know, the mana cost on that is 2, so it costs us 2 mana every time, but mana is, like, as you saw, just not an issue. So essentially we are a Rive Healing Hands Paladin, and we're using Rive because Rive is a 3 combo strike, or an attack that just will hit consecutive multiple times. And every time that it connects, you will cast Healing Hands. So as you saw when I was doing the echo and I would just hold right click, every time the Paladin would swing, so this would connect and hit, oh, whoops. Where is it? This would connect and hit, this would connect and hit, and this would connect and hit. You would constantly just be triggering Healing Hands. And since this scales off of attack speed, it is really easy to get this skill to attack to the moon. Now, we pair it with a couple of things. We pair it with the first and second attack at a bunch of attack speed. We're giving the first and second chance base crit, because eventually we'd like to be 100% crit. We're giving ourselves more crit chance. We're getting more area damage so that we can increase the range that we can hit mobs, because since we're in melee range, we want to make sure that we can hit mobs pretty far from us without having to be standing, excuse me, directly on top of them. If we have positive mana, Rive's second strike pulls enemies in. It pulls them in. So if you were watching and you go back and you look when we were doing those echoes, every time we would hit a mob or get close to a mob and attack, things around us would be pulled and sucked in. This makes for clearing really, really, really good and really comfy and convenient. Our first and second strike have a chance of reducing enemy armor, so we just completely 100% shred all of their armor without issues. And if we have high and positive mana, high health and positive mana, Rive's first strike releases an energy blade. So that's what this is. Oh, we're not at really high health anymore. And that's what that energy blade is. We're going to talk about the draining health in a minute. And then lastly, going back down the tree, we're changing the sequence of events so that Rive attacks 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and we're just dropping the third strike altogether. So this way we just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. If we look at Rive and how it's worded, it says that every third consecutive strike will slash in a full circle around the character, dealing double damage. We don't care too much about the third strike, so I'm just going to actually unspec this for a second and show you. We don't really care. Oh, yeah. Is it not doing it now? Did I not unspec the right node? There it is. It's working. I didn't see it. We don't really care too much about the third attack. As you see, it really slows down our character a lot. That third attack is just a lot slower in general and not something that you really want to be doing. You don't want to be slowing down your character. It would take me a second to go put this back in, so we're just going to leave it alone. Now, Healing Hands that we're pairing it with, this is the bread and butter. This is where all of your damage is coming from. This is the bee's knees of everything that you're trying to do. We talked about Cleric's Hammer. Cleric's Hammer is the thing that is giving us that extra ability. Every time we hit a mob, Cleric's Hands is triggering. So the best way to showcase and show you is I need an arena key. Now, one of the best ways to show you this is to literally teleport ourselves to a target dummy. And just as you see here, every time I attack, Healing Hands is going off. And you can actually see Healing Hands. That's what that gold thing is. Now, Healing Hands in itself is scaling off of spell damage or dealing fire spell damage, so it gets typed fire. Healing Hands then is scaling off of effective healing. Healing Hands is then dealing more damage with specialized buff skills. Healing Hands is then taking longer to cast but dealing more damage and an increased effective healing and a larger area of effect. So this node is just giving us minus cast speed, more damage. And then lastly, we're turning Healing Hands into a melee skill. This is the thing that gets a little bit weird. Seraph Blade says that it converts all of the spell damage on this tree. So everything that were to say spell, so this would convert and say melee damage and converts it all into a melee skill. From my understanding, this skill turns it fully into a melee skill. I don't still understand why the skill scales off of cast speed versus attack speed, but this skill is what turns it into a skill or a melee skill. This also says deals fire damage on hit. I don't know if this is supposed to scale with fire damage or not, or have a fire damage tag to scale off of a tag, but I do know from testing that the damage type is fire, as this converts the damage to fire or makes it a fire type, and this node says that is a melee skill. This converting it to fire as not currently giving Healing Hands a fire tag for anybody who's curious. It does make the damage type fire, and through testing and a lot of testing with taking all of my gear off and putting only on increased percents of fire damage and increased percents of melee damage using the same blank white weapon, we have noticed that percent fire damage is currently scaling the skill. Originally, I had talked to other content creators and we had thought that it was not working and not scaling, but we did more testing and it does indeed look like it's scaling. So I think the skill is working mostly as intended and not bugged. If it is bugged and not scaling properly, then this build will do infinite some more damage. But I think currently it's working. I'm just gonna put that disclaimer out there. We're lowering the cost of healing hands, we're giving ourselves more area of effect, and we're just increasing the effective healingness of healing hands. Now, you notice when I was playing and I started attacking things, let me put Rive back on. You'll notice when I start attacking things, my ward essentially starts going to the moon. And this is because the last node of healing hands says Divine Barrier. Healing Hands also grants wards to allies based on your attunement. If your ally has an effect that causes them to gain ward per second based on their health missing, then all of Healing Hands healing is converted to ward. So that second part is really important. If the ally has an effect that causes them to gain ward per second based on their missing health, then all of Healing Hands healing is converted to ward. So you also count as your own ally and are affected by this node when casting Healing Hands. So what that means is if I have a pair of gloves with this experimental mod that says lose current health per second, gain missing ward, when I use that node and I hit, I will generate health per missing ward. And because that node is constantly draining our health, we're constantly able to get more ward. From my understanding, if you have a better roll, and this is just my understanding, this might not be right, but my understanding is if I have a better roll of this and more health, I can generate more ward as I will lose the health faster than I can gain it back and be able to generate a larger health pool. So I believe if you have a higher roll of this experimental mod, you should be able to generate more ward. So this node's completely busted. I don't know how this isn't. This node is it is literally out of control. It's just out of control. You also just get more ward per attunement. So like if you have attunement on any parts of your gear, you're just gonna get more. Like it's out of control. Now we take Paladin for a couple of reasons. One, we get Holy Aura. Holy Aura, tons of resistance, tons of damage, tons of everything. We get a bunch of bonus ignite chance. We get fire pen since we know we deal fire damage. We get global fire damage. We get flame burst, which is just exploding and dealing tons and tons of fire damage. This is also scaling off of our area, our attunement. This is also scaling off of our fire damage. This is just another secondary source of damage. We're getting inner flame that just causes us to just pretty much just burst and blow up everything. This gives us a nice AoE effect. This is how we get that beautiful ability to kill multiple mobs. It's also giving fanaticism, which is giving us more attack speed. We're getting more crit chance. Overall, Holy Aura, 10 out of 10. If you find yourself struggling with Holy Aura, or you find yourself struggling with ailments, or you need a cleanse, or something to just kind of like get you like an oh crap button, I have been experimenting. It hasn't been too bad with taking points out of improved flame burst or points out of inner flame and putting points up to get purification, so that if you are struggling a little bit, you can take a little bit of damage away, especially in like lower corruption. If you find yourself struggling, take a little bit of points out of damage and put it into the ability to cleanse yourself. Same with you're really struggling with just finding resistances. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of extra resistances. I don't know if I would take this. I feel like gearing, especially with COF and Merchant's Guild, is pretty easy, but if you also find yourself struggling, you could just like take all of this out. You'll lose a lot of damage, but you could just get resistances to get you started. But as soon as you get the gear to fix all of your problems, I would really take these points out. We're going to be using Sigil of Hope, which is another Paladin thing, which is awesome. This thing gives you tons and tons of extra fire damage. You just get a bunch of free fire damage. You get the ability to just do more damage per sigil. You're going to have 4 sigils, so you get 20% more damage per sigil. You're going to be able to auto summon your sigils on kills. This makes this really good for mapping. I wish this really triggered on hit when you hit a boss, but it doesn't, which is unfortunate. You're going to get additional endurance threshold. You're going to get, your sigils are just going to last forever. You're going to get an additional sigil. Your sigils are now only going to affect you, but give you twice as much healing with regeneration. And we're going to get tons and tons and tons of block. This node, huge for defense. Huge for defense. You see right now that I only have 53% chance to block, As soon as I put them all up, I go to 65% chance to block, and with better gear and better rolls on gear, you'll very easily be able to get to block cap. If my math is right. I hope my math is right. I hope I'm not an idiot. I might be an idiot, but you never know. And then with extra points to Healing Hands or extra points to Sigil of Hope, depending on how you gear, you could just get more healing effectiveness, and this would just give you more ability to get healing. If the math I did is right, I believe this node is more damage than this node, but this kind of comes back to the whole Healing Hand things and how much you're going to want to min-max, because Healing Hand says that you're going to get spell damage per 10% increased healing effect, so you're going to get 2 flat damage per 10% healing effect. And then depending on what your percent healing effect is and how much these sigils are giving, you might want to do the math to see if this is putting you over a breakpoint to get more damage. But I do believe the flat fire damage is more damage from testing on hitting a dummy. But testing to be determined. If you know and you have that answer, please leave a comment down below. Let me know, and this way I can get information updated and out to you guys. Lastly, we are going to be using the one button that a lot of you guys seem to not like, and one of the coolest things about Paladin. We get access to Volatile Reversal. This gives you more and more and more and more and more damage, and tons of damage, and just damage on damage on damage. And every time I press this button, I just, like you can see my damage right here, we get 60,000 crits, 50,000 crits, 70,000 crits. We press this button, 113,000, 120,000, you just hit. I like Volatile Reversal a lot. I understand it is a really tricky skill to play with. I understand that you might want to start hitting this guy and then you press this and you teleport backwards. It is a pain in the butt. I get it. It is not ideal. The playstyle of it is a little weird, but it's a really, really, really strong skill. And it stacks and it stacks and it stacks and it stacks. And the more that you press it and the faster that you get the cooldown to 0, and the faster that you just do things and the faster that you hit bosses and stuff and just reset the cooldown, like you just hit more and more and more and more. Essentially, the TLDR for how this skill works is it reverses you in time. So it puts you back 2 seconds. So if I'm here and then I walk here, 1, 2, it'll move, you know, within that window, it'll move you back in time. But if I'm using it and then I move here and then I go 1, 2, 2.5, 3, it just leaves me where I'm at. So it's kind of like a really cool button where like you can actually like if you're like saying fighting Lagon or the tentacle guy with the laser beam, and he's laser beaming, and like you start here and then he laser beams right here, and then you move here and then his laser beam goes there, you just Volatile Reversal to the other side later. You can do like really cool things. I don't know, man. I like the skill. I think it's awesome. I don't know. I think it's awesome. But essentially, you're just reducing the cooldown of Volatile Reversal as much as possible. You're giving yourself global attack speed. You're giving yourself movement speed. And you're just giving yourself damage on damage on damage. This says enemies hit by Volatile Reversal's Void Rifts take increased damage for 4 seconds. It's 30% increased damage. You cast a Void Rift here. You cast a Void Rift here. And you have 2 Void Rifts. These stack. And then if you manage to get the cooldown of this low enough that you get to press it again before this 4 seconds is up, you can actually stack it, unstack it, unstack it. And you can stack the attack speed. So Volatile Reversal, very strong, very good. Let's talk about gear. Gear in itself on this is pretty simple. We mentioned the gloves. The gloves need to have this experimental mod. It is outright important. Currently, I have a base pair of gloves with increased crit, melee attack speed, health, and resistances. These gloves could be better. They are pretty bad. I ran out of forging potential very quickly, trying to fix them and put on the experimental mod. My rings are pretty straightforward. Attunement and healing effect. The attunement for the war generation, the healing effect for damage, resistances, and the suffix. This base could be better. There are way better bases to put these stats on. I wish I had a better base, but COF lifestyle, this is what I'm given. Your suffixes in all of your gear slots that are not uniques are just going to be able to cover the health loss, the resistances loss, and stuff like that. Your prefixes on your ring or your one ring should be attunement and healing effect, attunement for the war generation, healing effects for the damage. My offhand, I'm not sure if I want to keep an offhand like this or if I want to attempt to roll this sigil, the Codex sigil for Paladin. Currently, right now, I have a chance to ignite healing effect, fire damage, Sentinel Relic. There might be better ways to get this. I think the pure fire damage relic is probably going to be better. But right now, we just get increased healing and increased fire damage. You know, either of the mods are really good. Ideally, you'd get a tier 7 mod. my suffixes, once again, I have frailty on hit. I think frailty on hit is really important to have, and I really encourage you guys to try to have it somewhere. Originally, this had tier 5 frailty on it when it dropped in tier 1 fire, and I just crafted up the fire damage. I fractured off the endurance threshold so that I could put another resistance on. As you see, this is what is like helping me cap my necrotic resistance. My armor could use a little bit of love. I think there is a better base. I believe there is a fire damage base that we could put this on. I think maybe these mods, these +4 mods, are probably the best bet that we want for armor. Simply due to the fact that Healing Hands is scaling off of 200% of effectiveness. So this node says added spell damage. This converts this node to melee damage, and it's only melee damage. It is not fizz damage. It only scales off of melee damage. So this is scaling 150% melee damage at 200% increased effect, if I read it and understand it right. I would like this on the fire base, and I would like the other prefix to be fire damage, but this is one of those things where I need to grind out some more and get a better armor or a better chest plate. The suffixes, once again, poison resistance to cover my poison resistance, and then health, because extra health is always good. But there is a base. It is a really nice base. It gives you a ton of flat fire damage. Our necklace is more area of effect and increased healing effect. This dropped like this, and then I kicked up the poison resistance and the health, just so that I was capped out on poison resistance and health. Unfortunately, I ran out of forging potential to really do anything else. But you're really looking for a nice necklace that has healing effect and, you know, pretty much anything else. I don't know how much the area of effect is really affecting it. Like in testing here, you can see right now, like it goes to where it goes. And then if I put this back on, it doesn't really look like area of effect is doing too much for the skill, even though it says it scales off of area of effect, but maybe I just don't have enough of it to really see the effects of it. So it might just be something that I, even in the future, experiment with a little bit more. My shield right now is my pride and joy. I love this shield. I think this shield is great. I think this is the best base for a shield. This shield right now gives me 35% increased melee damage, 170% increased healing effect. Unfortunately, forging potential gave me low rolls when I was trying to divine the shield, but we have armor, endurance. The endurance I would love and prefer if it was block chance and effectiveness, or a percent armor. I think it's percent armor and suffixes and block in the prefixes. I would have just loved it to be another defensive role revolving around armor or block. I think it's armor and the suffixes. You guys, I haven't memorized the entire crafting table yet. Please forgive me. But this shield is actually my pride and joy. I am hoping and praying that I can use a shield similar to this to slam into Arias. I think this is probably going to end up being the best in slot shield, as this is the only way to get fire damage on a shield, and it has increased effective healing rate, and it has a ton of resistances. I'm hoping to get a shield that has tier 7 increased healing effectiveness again to slam into this and hope the effective healing moves over. The Exalted Shield is more defensive. The Raya Shield is more offensive. So keep that in mind. By some miracle, if you find a multi-LP Raya Shield and you could slam defenses into this, this shield would be out of control. But personally, for me, I want to play offensive, so I'm going to attempt eventually in the future to slam the healing effect into the Rayas. That would be ideal. This shield, I think, is out of control and fantastic. And if you're playing a Merchant's Guild and you're thinking about playing this build, this shield's like 1,000 gold. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how people are selling it with LP for as cheap as it is. Now, the weapon, I had mentioned that I was looking for this with LP. I think this is the best weapon for this build. I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but this adds flat melee fire damage. Flat. It adds percent melee damage. Percent melee damage at 200% scale. It adds fire pen. So it is a weapon that it just adds fire pen, melee damage, and just flat damage. And it gives you movement speed, crit chance, and everything beautiful. The only downside to this weapon is the base attack rate on it is pretty slow. If I get this weapon with LP1, I am going to attempt to slam into it a tier 6 or tier 7 attack speed roll. If I get 2 LP, I'm going to attempt to slam in a base crit and an attack speed roll. And from there, I will figure it out. 3 and 4 LP, I'll worry about that when I get there. I haven't even begun to even thought about 3 and 4 LP. Those just seem out of the realm of possibilities. But I think this is the best bang for our buck, especially with LP. If you don't have this weapon with LP, you just want like a juicy axe with base crit, attack speed, frailty, chill, slow, all that fun stuff. So if you have questions about like what an axe should look like, or if you have an axe, you don't know if it's good, you want to ask a million questions, leave a comment down below. Come by the Discord, come show off your gear, ask questions. We will be more than happy to look at your stuff and give you a helping hand. Our helmet, Peak of the Mountain. This helmet is out of control. It is wonderful. I attempted to slam on level of Healing Hands because you can get Healing Hands with effective healing, but I missed and I hit percent increased health. I would like to get more points into Healing Hands so that I can pull points into this or a point into this and just kind of really experiment with Healing Hands a little bit more. So Peak of the Mountain comes from the Lightless Arbor dungeon and you just kill a boss. LP1 is very common to come by. I am actually planning on going to farm more. I have another one. I just haven't had a chance to hit it yet. And I would like to put Healing Hands onto the helmet. Our boots, we're going to use Yulia's Path. These boots are the only boots I was able to find with a percent of effective healing. So these boots have up to 114% effective healing. And we learned earlier that every 10% points of effective healing is 1 point of flat damage. So these boots are tons of flat damage. These boots are also tons of fire and necrotic resistance, which whatever, who cares? You know, assuming you don't need the resistances, like, you know, like you see, I could like take these off. I'm still resist capped. Except for the cold. I guess I needed them for the cold resist. But that's an implicit, so you're always going to get cold resist. But with nice rolls, the only roll I really care about is the effective healing roll. I would like this to have LP on it. I would love to slam movement speed into these and then anything else that I need. But I think these boots are going to end up being best in slot. I haven't really found another alternative that gives us both damage, resistance, movement speed. These boots are pretty much doing everything. It's really weird to me in a game that we're going to be using boots that have Maelstrom and Primalist, but it seems to work. And then lastly, we're going to have our belt. Our belt and ring both come off the Shade. We're going to use Shattered Chains to give us percent increased effect of melee damage per stack of Doom. More flat melee damage, more armor, stun immunity when we use a potion. So if you start getting stunned, you slam the potion, you're pretty good for a while. And this belt just gives you more damage on more damage on more damage. We pair this with the ring so that we can apply Doom and that we get Leech and melee damage leeches health. We don't do tons and tons of melee, but it's still really nice to have. Healing Hands is going to be our main source of effective healing. We also get movement speed. As far as slamming into this ring, I'm looking for another ring like this to slam into this. I would love to slam healing effect attunement into this ring. And as far as the belt goes, pretty much just like either elemental damage or health or, you know, I haven't really figured out the LP on the belt yet. I'm not going to lie to you. There's so many options and possibilities. I really don't think you can go wrong. Also, this belt seems to be really common unless I'm crazy. But I have so many of these in LP1 that I feel like I could just start slamming to my heart's content and figure out what I want. But if you guys have suggestions, please, by all means, leave a comment down below and let me know. Lastly, we're going to be talking about our idols. You can actually get really nice idols with a percent increased healing effect and block effectiveness. I think block effectiveness is really good if you're block capped, but you can also get Fire Pen with melee attacks. So you can actually get healing effectiveness and Fire Pen, which is insane. So I'm trying to get one of those to drop, but currently I just have a bunch of healing effect on my large idols with chance to shred on this one, which does nothing. So if, ideally, you would either have a bunch with healing effect and block effectiveness or healing effect and Fire Pen. And then lastly, we take this Throne of Ambition, which just gives you stacks of ambition when you hit a boss, and then you get more fire damage per stack, more armor per stack. You can have 20 stacks, so you just get more fire damage and just more fire damage and more fire damage. And with how fast we attack and how fast everything triggers, pretty much like it just within 20 seconds of hitting a boss, you just have all of the stacks and you're cruising. It is a ton. And I mean, like, I guess it doesn't work on a testing dummy. I was hoping it would work on a testing dummy. Is one of these testing dummies that's a training? Is one of these a boss? Does one of these count as a boss? How is one of these not a bro? How is one of these not a boss, my guy? How am I supposed? Is one not a boss? Are any of these? No, I guess there's no boss training dummy. If there's a boss training dummy and I missed it, I'm an idiot, then I'm an idiot and I missed it. But essentially we would just kick up our armor by a ton. The small ones are just percent increase healing effectiveness and then, you know, fill out whatever resistance that you're missing. In terms of blessings, overall blessings are really good. The one that I really care about is the critical strike avoidance. This is 60%. This is what's been able to get me capped. I am getting capped alongside something is giving me crit avoidance. The Paladin tree. Where is it? Is it the Paladin tree? The Paladin tree is giving me crit avoidance. and that's been out of this world. The other ones, like armor is really good, block is really good, you know, and then, you know, the ones that give you like adorn and stuff, like crit multi is insane. Crit multi, I have to go get the better crit multi. I need a better crit multi. And that's pretty much that for blessings. Blessings, they're pretty much free to do whatever you want. Fill them in with resistances that you need, fill them in with more damage or more defensive. The world is your oyster when it comes to blessings. There's no real min-maxy way to do it. It's just, do you want to be more offensive, more defensive, or find more loot? And the last thing we need to go over is the passive tree. We're taking 30 points into Paladin. We are getting 2 points into this, Time and Faith. This is how we maintain our mana with attacking so fast. This one's pretty important. There is a world where you might be able to get away with only 1. There is a world where you are able to reduce the cost of your healing hands with a healing hands helmet. So if you get a helmet with plus the healing hands levels, you could put a point into this and then points into this, and then you wouldn't need as many points into this. We take this because we have an axe for 30% increased attack speed. We take this for more damage, this for more armor, this for block chance, this because this unlocks this, and then fire and strength here. This node, I don't know if you need all 10 points. As you get better gear, you could take points out of this. This is giving us a lot of our void resistance and a lot of our physical resistance. And as far as things go on this tree, this says that we get increased physical resistance when we're hit and increased armor when we're hit. So currently right now, I don't have capped physical resistance, but if I get hit, my physical resistance immediately gets capped, and I just pretty much cross my fingers and hope to get one shot. Lastly, we take this for more block chance. The Paladin tree is insane. I'm not sure I have the best Paladin tree yet. I'm still working out the kinks to the Paladin tree and how I want to put points in. But essentially right now, I have this for fire pen and fire damage. After testing, this does seem to be working. This gives us attunement and resistances. And this for the war generation. We have block chance here. We have healing effectiveness here. I think these might not be the best node. It just gives us a bunch of health. I might actually remove all of these points and put them into here. This might be better off here if I can make the points work. The chance to cast Divine Bolt, I don't think does anything. I also want to remove this point and put this into here. This increased damage and increased healing effect is pretty good. I think the points are better spent in here, but some points in here is also really good. I take this for healing, effectiveness, necrotic resistance, and health. You could probably actually, depending on where your breakpoints are at, take a point out of this. So keep an eye on your effective healing breakpoint. You might actually be able to take a point away from this if you're at an even number for breakpoints. Like the extra 9% when looking at the effective healing, like if I were to remove the 9%, I wouldn't be at effective healing 1,000%. So the extra 9% currently is working. And then when I buff myself up and I have everything, you see that we're 3% short. If I were to remove the 9%, I would be 10, 1, 8, 10, 18, and you're just missing the extra percent. So just keep an eye on like your effective healing. It's a little sweaty, I know, and it's a little over the top, I know, but if you're really looking forward to min-maxing your damage, it's probably the best thing to be doing. This node for all the increased effective avoidance, armor with a shield, block chance. I see like armor is really good, so I think this node's really good. It might just be like a 1-point wonder, everything in here. This node I think is out of control. It is more health, more damage, more mana, which I guess the mana is irrelevant, and just more healing effectiveness. I think this node is really good. And then if there's a way to just get increased fire damage and movement speed, it'd be nice. But I mean, like, it's only 8% and it's like 1% movement. Paladin really struggles with movement, but I don't know. There's a lot of wiggle room. This is still really experimental. There's a lot of wiggle room with this, and I encourage you guys to play around. Like I said, I don't think Divine Bolts is very good, and I'm not too sure about this node at all. But this node might just be better off in here because of increased damage and healing effectiveness. So if you could just like figure out how to like work your tree or play around with it. If you have ideas, once again, leave a comment down below. Let me know. But that's the Paladin. Our movement skill is lunge. That's the Paladin. This character is great. I encourage you guys to go try it. I encourage you guys to go give it a whirl. And if you like it and you make it far, or you have cool ideas or things that I could do better, please, by all means, let me know. For now, I'm going to work on this guy a little bit. And I'm going to use this guy to farm for the Ignite Hammer guy. And I might actually, I hate to say this, but don't ever quote me again, but I might go experiment on Merchant's Guild for a little bit to see if it's actually bad, as you guys say. I am a huge COF fan, so I'm going to go experiment and see. But for now, friends, I want to get this video out to you guys. I'll see you all in the next one.